Where I want to start is age 11, where I had my first suicide attempt. So I was never really told that, okay, you can do this, things are gonna be okay. It was usually, you're not gonna make it. You're not gonna be anything. And after a while, by age 11, I was like, okay, if I'm not gonna be anything, if everything I do is not good enough, what's the point of living? By age 16, I had probably been to the hospital twice to pump my stomach. And by that time, I was diagnosed with clinical depression. And that to me was the worst thing that could ever happen to me. As a young person, not understanding what that meant, all I knew is what people were saying. You're mad, you're crazy, something wrong with you. Why it is you behaving like that? Why it is you just don't think positive? Just cheer up. You don't have no problem, you have everything. What more you need? So I felt the need at that age to just hide that I was going through anything. What I started to do was I started to cut, because I didn't know how to deal with it. Where do you go? Who do you turn to? I just didn't know. And then I built into the narrative of, you know what, maybe if I start to think positive, maybe it was just because I couldn't think positive. So I start reading all these self-help books of how to think positive and how to do this, and felt like, okay, I'm gonna fix myself. This is how this is gonna work. Those things help, but it didn't fix me. I did end up seeing a psychiatrist because at that point, parents don't know what to do, and they put me on antidepressants. And boy, that made me feel sick. I felt nauseous. I'm like, this thing worse than the depression itself. Like, why am I taking this? So I was like, you know, I came back to the point of self-help books. I'm gonna do this on my own. It took me a very long time to come to terms with what mental health truly means. Just like your physical health, you have to take care of it. And that would mean seeing people who can help you. I started getting counseling. I had to see both a psychologist and a psychiatrist. I had to go through that process, and that was a hard process. So getting past that challenge and that stage of my life, I went through high school, got my bachelor's degree, and at age 25, actually on my 25th birthday, I just fell ill. And by a few weeks after my birthday, I realized that I was going blind, only to be diagnosed with a brain disorder called intracranial hypertension, which means that my brain just simply produces too much brain fluid, so to speak. I'm a go-getter. I like to get up in the morning and do what it is I had to do. When I got diagnosed, that stopped. There are instances where, for example, I would be walking on the street and not know where I am, not know where I'm going, be like, It affected my speech, being in academics and having to speak to people. There are times that I can't even remember and, but, if, the in sentences, and I speak like I'm totally illiterate. I felt very embarrassed about that, because sometimes I remember I went to one meeting and I opened my mouth and I swore I had never been to school in my life, and have to take a step back and realize, okay, you're in a symptomatic state. And these episodes don't last very long, but you know that you have to just step back. So you're not as sharp as you used to be. You know, I have spoken to many other persons with the disease, and they talk about once they're in that symptomatic stage, depression becomes imminent. And to be already in a place where you're susceptible to be suffering from depression, and now you have a disease that kind of triggers that, you know, it puts you in a really interesting phase. Everybody that you talk to who has the disease, most times they tell you they're unable to work. If they are working, the amount of time off that they have to take and stuff like that. So I said I didn't want to be like that. I had to find myself outside of being diagnosed with an incurable disease. One thing I've always practiced trying to do is understanding the limitations of me. Who is Raeann? Raeann has these particular challenges. So I have a brain condition, and what are the challenges that come with that? and being able to look at all those things and say, okay, how do I live normally despite those challenges? So I had to learn to listen more to my body. And that's where my mental health growth took on another dimension, because I actually had to be able to listen to my body when it said, hey, we don't have energy to do this. You want to push, but we can't do it, and you have to listen. So I had to talk to my doctors. I had to make sure that I was doing my part in terms of taking care of myself, both physically and mentally, so that the challenges that I have would be lower. I have my master's degree. I'm currently pursuing my MBBS. I have my own business, and I am just trying to help people as much as I can to navigate some of the mental health issues that I have. To anybody who may be suffering, whether it is you've been diagnosed with a mental health illness or not, whether it may be just stress, or you feel like some days are heavier than the other and you don't have the strength to go on sometimes, I would just want to leave with you, you're not alone. Everything that you're going through, somebody else has felt that way. And there's nothing to be ashamed about. There's nothing to feel bad about. You're not weak. There's nothing wrong with you for struggling. Find the courage to reach out to someone. Find a friend, someone you can trust, and get the help that you need. Because great things are possible. I never knew that I would be here today, but I am, and I'm grateful to be able to share this story with each and every person that would be hearing this message. I'm Raeann Simmonds, and that was my mental health story.